Let me comment, probably it's just a side issue on the word perfect. Oftentimes if you say, well, that's really leading you astray or harming other people or harming yourself. And the person sometimes will say, well, I'm not claiming that I'm perfect, right? And to me, that's often a way of dodging the issue. The question is not really whether you're perfect. Of course, you're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. The question is, are you doing things that are damaging other people? Which is it's very far from perfect. It's not even standard. It's below the median line. So there's a way in which saying I'm not perfect kind of makes it seem not so serious, because it would be unreasonable to expect me to be serious, but it's not unreasonable for me to expect to stop harming other people.
Right. Okay. So that's the part I wanted to focus on.
Right.
That move is like any other bad faith move.
Yeah.
It's bringing in something that's just trying to get you off the hook.
Right.
It's not sincere, but it's like jerking the rug out from under the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm not perfect. Who is?
Right.
I mean, it's easy to make a move like that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I never said I was perfect.
Yeah.
Why are you always picking on me?
Yeah, I'm Stalin. I make some mistakes. Of course I do.
Right. So that's a bad faith move.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sure fits into one of the fallacies, and probably multiple fallacies that we list. But the main thing is it's a bad faith move. And whenever you make a move like that, where you're trying to basically just shut the other person up. And you're saying, I'm not willing to engage here. And now what's the easiest way for me to get out of it? Make some ridiculous statement. You're not saying that to yourself, but you're going to sweep it all away with this, I'm not perfect. And there are other parallel moves that people make. But the main thing is it's bad faith.
Yes, it is.
Really, if you're acting in bad faith, as an aspiring critical thinker, that's a warning. You want to say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not acting in bad faith. I will make mistakes. I'm not going to understand everything, and I will act in bad faith sometimes without even realizing I am. I'm not perfect, and because I think my way or the highway when I'm thinking egocentrically. But you start with these assumptions about yourself.
Right.
So I do think, again, the concept of bad faith is very powerful. Bad faith, good faith. Do you enter the point of view to understand it, or do you enter it to dismiss it?
Yeah, and for me, it kind of goes back to the first book I wrote, but I'm not going to talk about that. But it's that to say I'm not perfect is saying something that's kind of obviously true. And oftentimes when you want to let yourself off the hook, you say something that's obviously true that the other person isn't going to disagree with, as if that answers the question. Like people say, it is what it is. Well, of course that's true. Of course that's true, but that's not what's at question. You got to do what you got to do. Well, that's of course true, but the question is not whether you got to do what you got to do. The question is whether you got to do this particular action right now. And you can evade that question and evade the intellectual courage it would take to confront that by saying, you got to do what you got to do. Or there are millions of these. Boys will be boys, they say. And so we excuse a whole range of behavior because boys will be boys. But if you say it, boys will inevitably do bad things. Well, that's not so clearly true. Or there's nothing we can do to help stop boys from doing bad things. I'm just making it too general. But so there's a way in which we just evade the question by giving one of these obviously true things, or one that strikes me as that I wrote recently, and it's that people who oppose the death penalty and who say executing the murderer will not bring the victim back. Well, of course that's true. Who would ever think otherwise? But nothing brings the victim back. So that's not that in itself is not a reason to oppose capital punishment. I mean, forgiving the person won't bring the victim back. Nothing will bring the victim back. But if I say it won't bring the victim back, it gives this feeling that I'm really addressing the question, and it's something that whatever side you're on, you have to agree with. Because to disagree would have to be, well, yes, it will bring the victim back, and that's ridiculous. So there's a whole range of these sayings that gets us off the hook.
Or we think, or that we try to, we use in order to avoid something.
Right. Indeed.
So
yeah.
you can imagine, now anyone who's joining us will need to ask, how do I personally engage in something like this?
Right.
So another move that people will sometimes make is, you're always jumping on me, something like that. You're always nagging me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can never do anything right.
Yeah. Or you think too much.
Yeah, exactly. You're using this critical thinking on me. So if you're saying something to avoid facing something in yourself,
yeah, right,
you should stop,
mm-hmm.
figure out what you're actually doing in your mind.
Right. And in yourself is a really important part of it. It's not, I mean, it's also not wanting to have to be criticized by others, but really I think most of the time it's because I don't want to confront it myself. So I don't want to face it myself.